She woke up on cold concrete, her back aching and her scarf soaked in early morning dew. A glass door slid open. A cashier froze, staring. And then, she whispered the words no one expected, asterisk, I slept here all night. Asterisk, but who was she? Why was she forgotten in a world she helped build? What secret was buried beneath her silence? This isn't just a story of homelessness, it's a story of identity, dignity, and a past that refuses to stay buried. Stay with us because what happens next will leave you speechless. Welcome to my channel. If you're drawn to raw, emotional stories that expose real struggles and unforgettable truths, you're in the right place. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe. Now, let's dive into today's powerful story. You won't want to miss this. The cold crept under her wrapper like an unwelcome guest. The kind of cold that didn't respect age or story. That morning kind of cold when the sky hasn't fully decided if it's ready to brighten the world or just keep everyone guessing. The parking lot was quiet, its emptiness only broken by the occasional hum of a faraway truck and the blinking red light on the corner camera mounted just above the glass door of the grocery store. Mama Aura stirred on the cardboard she had flattened beneath her the night before. Her joints moaned before her voice could. Her knees, once strong enough to dance barefoot across packed red earth back in Ibadan, now ached with every shift. She winced. She wasn't sure what woke her first, the cold, the early chirp of birds, or that slight prickling of shame rising under her skin like heat. The shame that came from being seen when you had no place to be. She adjusted the scarf tied around her head and rubbed her hands together for warmth. Her fingers were swollen, her skin dry and cracked at the knuckles, but her palms still carried the calluses of decades past. Seamstress hands. Stitching. Hemming. Fixing other people's broken things. If only she could fix her own. The glass door rattled. A young man, no older than 20, thin-framed and pale-faced, struggled with the key in the lock. The light above the door flickered on. She sat upright, startled by how visible she suddenly felt. He noticed her then. Their eyes met. His hesitance flickered across his face before it morphed into something else. Uncertainty, maybe pity, maybe suspicion. She didn't know anymore. Mama Aura lowered her gaze but didn't look away. I slept here all night, she said, her voice hoarse but steady. He didn't respond immediately. He just stood, hand still on the key, caught in a moment he hadn't prepared for. Finally, the door clicked open. He stepped inside and hesitated before pulling his phone from his pocket. She didn't need to guess. He was calling someone. Maybe his manager. Maybe security. Maybe the police. Mama Aura stood slowly. She gathered the small nylon bag beside her, her only possession. A bottle of water, a change of blouse, and a fading photograph of her and Nii, her late husband, taken the day they arrived in America, full of smiles and foolish hope. As the automatic door hissed shut behind the boy, she sat back down. No sense running. No sense hiding. She'd done enough of both. The sun was climbing now, spreading reluctant light across the asphalt. She watched as cars began to trickle in. A woman in scrubs brushed past her with a hurried glance. A man in a business suit opened his trunk and pulled out reusable bags, looking through her like she didn't exist. She was used to that. It hadn't always been like this. There was a time when her voice filled a room. When women came from blocks away with fabric, asking her to stitch them beauty. Back in Suralere, before everything got too expensive, before Nii's cough turned into cancer, before America turned from a dream into a slow, painful misunderstanding. Mama Aura pulled the wrapper tighter around her body. The cardboard beneath her was damp now. A police cruiser slowed down across the lot. Her body stiffened. She kept her gaze low, trying not to look like a threat. Funny how she, a 72-year-old woman with arthritic knees and no shoes, still had to make herself seem smaller. The cruiser drove on. She exhaled. The first time they came for her was last fall. The building manager said he'd warned her enough times. Said she was causing problems, with her cooking smells and foreign music. Said she was bothering neighbors by praying too loudly. The truth? She just existed in a space where people didn't want reminders of anything too different. Too African. Too old. They gave her 1 week to leave. She had nowhere to go. She'd spent her last real money paying for that shoebox of a room, sharing a kitchen with 4 strangers who wouldn't even say good morning. Her attempts to ask for help from local shelters were met with clipped answers and cold eyes. "We're at capacity. Try again next week. Can you get family to help?" Family? She scoffed bitterly. Her only son hadn't called in years. After Nee died, Kola had slipped into silence. Last she heard, he was in Texas with a woman he didn't want her to meet. "You won't understand," he once said over a crackling phone line. That was the last time she heard his voice. So no, she couldn't call family. Mama Ora stood slowly, testing her balance. Her feet felt numb. Her belly churned with emptiness. She shuffled toward the bench just across the lot and sat, breathing heavily. The wind was picking up, rustling the plastic bags trapped in a nearby fence. She took out the photograph from her bag. She looked so alive in it. He did too. Nee, standing tall in his navy agbada, arms around her shoulders. She was smiling, lips painted red, gelly wrapped perfectly. That was the day they arrived at JFK. The beginning. They believed in this country then. Believed that hard work was enough. That respect was earned and not given by skin tone or passport origin. He wanted to teach physics. She wanted to open a tailoring shop. Instead, he ended up working double shifts in a warehouse until his lungs gave out, and she stitched dresses for rich women who never remembered her name. The store door opened again. The young cashier stepped out this time, now in his uniform and holding a walkie-talkie. He approached her slowly, cautiously. "Ma'am, do you have somewhere to go?" he asked, voice gentle but wary. She didn't answer. She couldn't. What answer would satisfy him? He sighed. "I called someone. They'll help. Maybe a shelter or something." "Thank you," she said, not sure if she meant it. He hesitated again, then left. Mama Ora sat still, listening to the sound of the world waking up around her. Engines humming. People laughing. Doors opening and closing. Conversations passing by her, never including her. Her stomach growled. She remembered the yudu soup she used to make on Saturday mornings. The aroma would fill the whole compound. Children would come knocking just to beg for a spoonful. Her kitchen was a gathering place, her hands always busy, her heart always open. Now, her hands trembled from hunger. A woman walked out of the store carrying 2 paper bags. She caught Mama Ora's eye. The woman looked quickly away and hurried to her car. It hit her then, how far she had fallen. Not just from stability, but from visibility. She had become someone people avoided. Someone whose presence made others uncomfortable. The quiet, creeping erasure that came not with violence, but with indifference. Her eyes welled with tears. She blinked hard. She didn't want to cry. Not here. Not again. But the tears betrayed her. They slipped down cracked cheeks and fell onto the photograph in her lap. She clutched it to her chest. Her voice broke into a whisper. "Nee, I don't know what to do." The wind didn't answer. She didn't know how long she sat there before a white van pulled up. A woman in a gray jacket with a city badge stepped out. "Miss Ora? I'm from the outreach team." Mama Ora didn't move. The woman approached, kneeling in front of her. "We got a call. We can take you somewhere warm. Get you food. See what options are available." Options. She'd heard that word so many times it had lost its meaning. Still, she nodded slowly. The woman offered a hand. Mama Ora took it. As the van pulled away, the camera above the store blinked quietly, still watching. Recording. Unseen to most. Just like her. The shelter smelled like bleach and something older. Something that clung to the walls even after scrubbing. Maybe it was sorrow. Or memory. The kind that refuses to leave, no matter how many times the sheets are changed or the windows opened. Mama Aura sat on the edge of the metal-framed bed, staring at the chipped linoleum floor. Her wrapper was folded neatly beside her, and the photograph of Nii remained safely tucked beneath the pillow. It had been 3 nights since she arrived, and yet she hadn't slept properly. The bed creaked when she turned. The snores, the muffled weeping, and the distant coughing made the night stretch longer than it should. Most of the women kept to themselves. Some talked too loudly. Some never spoke. All of them, in their own way, wore the same cloak of invisibility. That morning, as the city yawned into life, Mama Aura made her way out of the shelter, clutching the paper coffee cup they gave out by the front desk. She didn't drink it. She only held it, needing to hold something warm, something that suggested life hadn't fully forgotten her. Outside, the sky was dull. Clouds hung low, dragging the mood of the day behind them like a heavy skirt. She found a bench by the bus stop. Not far from where the shelter stood, but just enough of a distance to feel like she was in control of her steps. A small act of resistance. She sat there, watching the city pass her by. People with earbuds, people on phone calls, mothers tugging children along, workers in uniforms, students with backpacks. All of them moving somewhere. All of them belonging. And she just existed. "Excuse me, ma'am?" She looked up. A young black woman stood there, holding a sandwich and a small bottle of juice. Her skin was deep brown, glowing against the gray of the morning, and her eyes were alert, too alert for someone her age. "I saw you yesterday," the girl said. "You were wearing the same scarf." Mama Aura hesitated, then gave a soft nod. "Yes, I come here to breathe." The girl smiled faintly. "I figured you might be hungry." She handed her the food. Mama Aura took it slowly. "Thank you, my dear." "I'm Tasha," the girl said, sitting beside her without asking. "I go to the college down the road. Social work major." Mama Aura gave her a quiet glance. She didn't speak. Not yet. Tasha reached into her backpack and pulled out a granola bar. "You don't have to talk if you don't want. I don't know. I felt like maybe you needed someone." Mama Aura unwrapped the sandwich and took a small bite. The bread was too soft. American bread. She missed Ajij. She missed the tug of it between her teeth, the heaviness, the taste of home. "I am Aura," she finally said. "In my language, it means prayer." "That's beautiful," Tasha said. Mama Aura looked at her, curious. "You are not African?" "I'm black," Tasha replied, a little defensively. "American black. Why?" Aura shook her head gently. "No, I meant, do you know where your people are from? Nigeria? Ghana?" Tasha shrugged. "I did the ancestry thing once. It said something about West Africa. I don't really think about it like that. I'm from here. Born and raised in Oakland." Aura smiled softly. "That is the difference." "Difference in what?" "In the way we carry pain." Tasha turned toward her. Her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" Aura wiped her hands on a napkin, her gaze far away now. "When I came here, I thought this country would open its arms. My husband and I, we believed. We worked. We learned your ways. We swallowed our accents, wore your clothes, watched your news. We did everything right. But the door never opened fully." Tasha listened. "My husband died with disappointment in his eyes," Aura continued. "He kept asking, what did we miss? And now, I'm here, on a bench, carrying a name that no one knows how to say, carrying stories no one asks to hear." Tasha leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "I get what you're saying. I do. But it's hard for us too. For me. Every time I speak in class, I feel like I have to prove I'm not angry. Every time I walk into a store, people watch my hands. People tell me I'm articulate, like it's a compliment." "I know," Aura said. "But you speak like you belong here. I still sound like a visitor." Tasha looked at her for a long moment. "You talk like you don't belong here." It wasn't said with malice. Just honesty. Mama Aura nodded. "Maybe I never did." They sat in silence for a while. Buses came and went. People passed them without notice. Tasha broke the silence. Why did you come to this country? For opportunity, Ora answered. Did you find it? Ora paused. I found something. But not what I thought. Not what we were told. Tasha looked at her, her young face drawn with thought. My grandma used to say America isn't a land, it's a test. Ora chuckled. Then I have failed. No, Tasha said quickly. You're still here, right? Still breathing. That's something. Ora smiled faintly. Small something. Tasha checked her phone and stood up. I gotta get to class. You gonna be okay? I will be here. Can I see you again? But only if you bring that same kindness in your heart. Tasha laughed. That I can do. As she walked away, Ora watched her. The girl's posture, strong, alert, and full of questions, reminded her of a younger version of herself, before disappointment settled into her bones. That evening, back at the shelter, Mama Ora sat by the window. The city glowed in patches. Streetlights flickering. Sirens singing their nightly lullaby. She reached beneath the pillow and pulled out Nee's photo again. I met a girl today, she whispered. She is fierce. She listens. But even she does not understand where I come from. Her fingers traced the edge of the photograph. I do not understand where I am anymore. Sleep came late again. When it did, it was filled with fragments of memory. She was 21 again, standing by the ocean in Lagos, wind in her scarf, laughter in her throat. Nee beside her, arms strong and sure, asterisk asterisk. One day, he said, we will live in a place where our children will never worry about food or fear. She had believed him. She had carried that dream across continents. Now, she clutched it like a crumpled receipt, faded, wrinkled, almost unreadable. The next morning, she returned to the bench. Tasha didn't come. She waited till the sun moved above her, casting long shadows of doubt across her lap. She wanted to believe that this country could still surprise her. But all she had were mornings. Mornings and benches. And a voice inside her asking a question she no longer had the strength to answer. Where is home, when everywhere you go, you are made to feel like a guest? The waiting room was quiet, except for the crackling sound of an old radio in the corner and the low rustle of papers being shuffled at the front desk. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a pale, indifferent glow on the cracked tiles beneath Mama Ora's feet. She sat there, hands folded tightly on her lap, trying to keep her breathing steady. Her clothes were clean but faded, washed the night before at the shelter's sink with bar soap and hung on a rusty hanger by the bunk bed. Her scarf was neatly tied. She had made sure of it, because even when the world tried to strip her dignity away, she still clung to the rituals of self-respect. She had come to this community resource center after a shelter volunteer gave her a printed list of places that helped the elderly. There was a chance they could get her into permanent housing. A wait list maybe. Somewhere with a kitchen, even if shared. A room. A door that locked. That was all she wanted now, just a door that locked. Behind the glass partition sat a white woman with hair pulled into a severe bun. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes, and she didn't look up until Ora spoke. Good morning, Ora said softly, stepping forward. The woman blinked once before replying. Do you have an appointment? No, Ora answered. But I was told maybe someone here could help me. The woman's fingers tapped the keyboard without urgency. Name. Ora Adeyemi. Do you have a social security number? My papers were lost when I left my old room, Ora admitted. But I've been here, this country, for almost 40 years. I had a green card. My husband. Without documentation, it'll be hard to place you into the system, the woman said quickly, already looking past her toward the next person in line. Ora's voice wavered, but she kept it steady. I just need to know what I can do. I am sleeping in a shelter. I have no family here. Please. The woman gave a tight sigh and leaned forward slightly, her voice low and clipped. A lot of people need help. You people should be grateful there are shelters at all. Some of us work every day just to keep this going. You people. The phrase landed like a slap across Aura's soul. She blinked. Grateful. She should be grateful for a stained mattress, a bowl of flavorless soup, and a system that forgot she existed the moment she aged out of usefulness? A silence stretched between them. I am grateful, Aura said, her voice trembling now. But I am also tired. The woman glanced away, uninterested in reply. Aura stepped out of the center into the harsh afternoon light. It felt hotter than it was. The kind of heat that made everything feel heavier. Her legs ached, her hands shook, and her stomach growled in quiet protest. She sat on the curb and let the weight of the day press into her bones. Tears welled up, but she blinked them away. Not here. Not in public. She still had some pieces of herself she refused to let the world steal. That phrase echoed in her head, you people, as if her whole identity could be collapsed into one careless sentence. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer in Yoruba under her breath. It was the only language that felt safe now. The only one that didn't betray her. Later that day, she wandered down a street she hadn't walked before. It was quieter, lined with small houses and a few storefronts. At the end of the block, she spotted a building she recognized, a church. The cross above the roof had faded from sun exposure, and the windows were clouded with age. She paused at the gate, unsure if she should enter. It had been years. But something pulled her forward. The door creaked as she stepped inside. The church was mostly empty, dimly lit by filtered light from high windows. Pews stood in quiet formation. Candles flickered weakly by the altar. And there, near the front, a familiar voice rang softly in the air. Aura. She turned. A woman in her 60s approached slowly, her eyes widening. It is you, Mama Aura. It was Sister Ruth, the pastor's wife. She used to buy custom dresses from Aura long ago, for Thanksgiving, for baby dedications, for anniversaries. Her voice was warm, but something about it felt performative now. Like a smile rehearsed too often. You've lost weight, Sister Ruth said, her eyes sweeping across her appearance. Are you doing okay? Aura nodded faintly. I came to sit. To pray. Of course, Ruth replied, guiding her to a pew. They sat together. For a while, there was silence. I heard about your husband's passing, Ruth said eventually. That was some time ago now. Yes. And your son? Aura's face darkened slightly. He is far. I see. Another silence. Ruth cleared her throat. You know, the church has grown. We have new leadership and things have changed. But we still welcome everyone. Aura nodded. That is good. She waited. But no invitation came to return for service. No offer of food. No suggestion of support. Just a polite smile. Polished. Hollow. Aura stood slowly. Thank you for the seat. Ruth rose with her. We'll keep you in our prayers. Aura paused at the door. I used to feed this church, she said softly. I used to sew altar cloths. Choir uniforms. I remember, Ruth said. But there was no warmth in the memory. Just distance. Aura stepped back into the street, the sunlight brighter now, almost unforgiving. That night, she returned to the back alley near the grocery store. The shelter had filled up again. No space tonight, they had said. She didn't argue. She had learned not to. Behind the store, the concrete was cracked and uneven, but it was dry. She placed her wrapper on the ground, leaned against the wall, and watched the stars flicker above the city skyline. In the distance, a siren wailed. Closer by, rats scurried in the shadows. She closed her eyes, whispering Ni's name into the night. She dreamt of home, not this place, not even Nigeria, but a memory deeper than either. A place where her name meant something, where her voice echoed, and people gathered when she called. She dreamt of her mother, humming while plucking bitter leaf in a clay bowl. Of laughter in the courtyard. Of music from a transistor radio. When she woke, the wrapper was damp with dew. She sat upright, her body aching. The alley felt colder than it had the night before. She rubbed her knees, stretched her back, and looked toward the store. People were already arriving. And she was still here. Just here. And for the first time in a long while, Aura whispered not a prayer, but a question into the rising sun. What is left of me, when no one remembers who I used to be? The grocery store bustled under the glare of a noon sun. Shopping carts clattered, doors whooshed open, and conversations filled the air like background music no one really heard. A child tugged on his mother's hand, whining for snacks. A delivery man stacked crates near the side entrance. Life went on. No one noticed the old woman sitting by the wall. But Mama Aura noticed them. Every single one. She watched people push past each other with earbuds in, never looking up. She watched as strangers held doors for some and let them slam in others' faces. She watched the invisible rules of belonging play out like a quiet, cruel performance, and she was not invited to the stage. She had returned here not just for shelter, but for something she hadn't admitted to herself yet. She was tired of being erased. That morning, the shelter had turned her away again. Too full, they said. Try tomorrow. No apology. No effort. Just routine dismissal. She had wandered for hours, hunger gnawing through her belly, shame dragging at her heels. A young boy had offered her a half-eaten apple on a subway platform. She had taken it without a word. And then she came here, to the place where this slow fall began. To the store where she once curled against the wall like discarded luggage and whispered, "I slept here all night." She wanted to see if anyone remembered. They didn't. Inside the store, she wandered the aisles slowly. Her stomach ached, but she didn't take anything. Not yet. She ran her fingers across the tops of canned goods, feeling the cold metal, imagining the stew she once made for Nii every Sunday. At the register, she saw him, the same cashier. He glanced up, eyes flicking toward her before looking away. That was enough to boil something in her chest. She walked toward the front slowly, every step firm, deliberate. As she approached, a young white woman with a toddler in her cart turned, pulling her child closer. The toddler stared, pointed, loudly asked, "Mommy, why is she so dirty?" The woman gasped. "Hush! Don't be rude," she scolded, before giving Aura a tight, apologetic smile and quickly pushing the cart forward. The cashier looked away. So did the manager. So did everyone. And in that moment, something inside her snapped. She stepped forward. The cashier mumbled, "Ma'am, you can't be back here again." But she ignored him. She placed her hands on the counter, her voice low but clear. "No one wants to see me, but you will hear me." The manager approached now, arms crossed. "Ma'am, if you don't leave, we'll call someone." "Call them," Aura said calmly. "Let them come. Let them hear what I have to say too." The store paused. Customers stopped browsing. A few turned their heads. "You think I am nothing because I sleep outside," she said, voice rising. "Because I wear old wrappers and speak with an accent. But I have lived more than most of you ever will." Someone pulled out their phone. Began to record. "I was a seamstress in Lagos," she continued. "I sewed suits for judges. Robes for pastors. I had respect. I had a name. I gave everything to this country, and it gave me shadows. Invisible corners. Silence." A security guard appeared at the door. She raised a hand before he could speak. "I buried my husband here. I raised a son who doesn't call. I paid taxes. I waited in lines. I believed. I believed." Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. "And now? Now I am nothing to you but a stain. A problem. An inconvenience outside your precious store." She looked at the cashier. "You remember me, don't you?" He swallowed. Nodded faintly. "You saw me sleeping in the cold. And what did you do? You looked away. Like all of them. The silence in the store became unbearable. The security guard took a step forward. But before he could reach her, a voice cut through the tension. Wait! Everyone turned. A woman stood near the entrance. Early 30s, braided hair, camera around her neck, eyes sharp. I'm a local journalist, she said, stepping closer. And I want to hear more. The manager sputtered. This isn't the place. It is now, the journalist replied. She turned to Aura. Tell me everything. Mama Aura hesitated. Her body trembled, not from fear, but from the overwhelming flood of finally being seen. I have lived too long to be silent now, she said. If people do not see me, I will make them hear me. The journalist nodded. Then let's start now. Outside the store, under the hot sun, Aura sat on a bench while the camera rolled. She told her story, how she came with her husband on a student visa, how Nee worked 2 jobs, how she saved money in an envelope hidden under the floorboard, how they dreamed of opening a tailoring shop, how cancer came like a thief and grief never left, how paperwork expired, how kindness wore thin, how neighbors became strangers, how everything became a long, quiet disappearing. The journalist asked questions, but mostly she listened. Passers-by paused. Some watched. Some just kept walking. But Aura had broken through the silence. And for once, the world wasn't looking away. That night, the story aired online. Just a short clip. A 2-minute interview posted to a local station's social page. The caption read, I slept here all night. The forgotten voice of a Nigerian immigrant. Within hours, it had hundreds of shares. Comments poured in. Some cruel, some kind, some confused. But many asked the same thing. How could this happen to someone who gave so much? At the shelter, Aura sat quietly in her bunk. The television above the front desk played the clip on loop. She watched herself speak, saw the fire in her eyes, the heartbreak in her voice. She didn't recognize the woman. She looked powerful. For the first time in a long while, she felt something stir in her. Not pride. Not yet. But a crack in the wall of despair. A shift. The next morning, she received a knock at the shelter door. It was the journalist again. There's a Nigerian church group nearby, she said. They saw the clip. They want to meet you. Aura's eyes widened. But why now? The journalist smiled gently. Because they finally saw what you've been saying all along. And some of them remember you. As Aura stepped into the journalist's car, she looked back once more at the shelter. Then at the street corner she'd claimed for so many nights. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But today people had stopped looking away. And as the car pulled into motion, Mama Aura whispered softly to herself, Maybe I am not invisible after all. Dawn arrived like a slow confession. The sunlight crept up the sidewalk, painting shadows of grocery carts and flickering neon signs that never really turned off. But it wasn't the sky that stirred the town that morning. It was the echo of her voice. I slept here all night, she'd said, and the whole world paused. Inside the store, cameras had captured everything. Outside, someone had already uploaded a clip online. By midday, it was viral. An old black woman slumped against a store wall, waking up with the dignity of a queen and the weariness of a soldier. Her name was Mama Ebel, but no one had asked yet. She sat upright now, brushing crumbs from her skirt, ignoring the curious glances of the crowd that had gathered across the street. She wasn't weeping. She wasn't begging. Just sitting. She'd been here before, in places where people pretended not to see her. But now, she was visible. Now they stared. A woman approached, mid-30s, with a coat too expensive for this side of town. She crouched before Mama Ebel and whispered like they were old friends. Were you out here all night? Alone? Mama Ebel nodded, eyes fixed on the horizon. You don't belong here, the woman added softly. And that's when Ebel spoke again, clearer this time. I built here. I prayed here. I bled here. And now I sleep here. So, who decides who belongs? Flashback. 27 years ago, she had arrived in this same town with a husband who loved too loud and a son who dreamed too far. The West had promised more than back home in Abeokuta. It had promised freedom, dignity, fairness. Her husband had worn his agbada like armor, walking with pride down the boulevard until the stares grew sharp. When they mocked his accent, he tried to mold his tongue to fit in, until silence seemed easier. Her son, Keen, once stood in school assembly and said he wanted to be president. The teacher had smiled, but told him he should consider realistic options. He stopped dreaming the next day. Mama Ebel had held them both together with palm oil, prayers, and the scent of groundnut stew. But America, the West, had a way of thinning you out, like okra in too much water. She worked. She cleaned. She nodded. She complied. Until the house was gone. Until her son left. Until her name was just ma'am. Until last night. Back to the present. I know you, a man's voice said from behind. She turned slowly. He was tall, mid-40s, suit rumpled but expensive. There was pain in his eyes, the kind that recognized yours because it once mirrored the same. Keen, she gasped. He didn't answer right away. He just knelt, right there on the dirty sidewalk, ignoring his briefcase and the forming crowd. I saw the video, he said. I didn't know it was you. Mama Ebel blinked fast. You left, my son. You left me. I was ashamed, he admitted, voice cracking. I thought I had to erase where I came from to survive. I thought if I got the job, wore the suit, lost the accent, maybe I'd matter. She reached out, touching his cheek like he was 7 again. You forgot I raised you not to matter to them, she said softly. I raised you to matter to yourself. He sobbed. The store manager came out now, flustered. Meh. I didn't know. She stood, towering even in her frailty. You didn't want to know. You wanted me gone. He looked ashamed. If I could offer. I want nothing but space, she said. Space to exist. Space to be seen. You people think homelessness is just sleeping outside. But homelessness is living in a world that refuses to make room for you. Keen stood beside her now. She's not invisible anymore. That evening, a local station aired a segment titled, The Woman Who Slept Outside the Store. They never expected the woman to speak so boldly. They never expected her past to be woven into the very streets she lay on. They didn't know she once taught ESL classes for free or helped other immigrants find housing. They didn't know she once stood at city council meetings asking for safer sidewalks. But now they did. She had told her story. Unfiltered. Painful. Proud. Not for pity. Not for handouts. But to remind them, and herself, that even silence has a breaking point. That a people can only bow for so long before they rise, even from concrete. A week later, a community shelter named its Reading Corner after her. Donations flooded in from strangers. But Mama Ebel didn't want glory. She wanted memory. That the next time someone sees a black woman asleep outside a store, they remember. She's not broken. She's not trash. She's a whole universe surviving. She still sleeps lightly now, not from fear, but from awareness. Because every sunrise is a protest. Every open eye is a testimony. And every story like hers is no longer just a whisper in the dark. It is a loud, ringing declaration. I existed. I mattered. I still do. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful journeys that inspire, challenge, and uplift. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment of hope and strength. Join our community. Your support means everything.